This event is a new program that will provide you with a premium opportunity to showcase your business, network with other leaders in our community, and share ideas that will help our region to grow. Now more than ever, this type of innovation is so important to our state and local economy. As you all know, the last several years have presented many challenges to businesses, and while we appear to be headed in the right direction, if we want that momentum to continue, we all must try new things to connect with new customers and new markets, and that's what this summit is about, new ideas and new connections. I'd like to commend Amy Senator, the Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, Julie Arsenault, the event chairperson, and the rest of the Chamber Special Events Committee for the outstanding work that they did to make today possible. I'd also like to recognize our platinum sponsor, Hancock Lumber. Their involvement in this event is just another tremendous example of the great investment that they've made in our community, and we appreciate their support. I'd also like to thank gold sponsors, the Home Depot and the Wyndham Eagle, for their generosity and support, and you'll get a chance to hear more from them later this afternoon. Gorham Savings Bank, where I work in my spare time, is also proud to be a gold sponsor of the inaugural Sebago Summit. Earlier I mentioned innovation, and that's something that we feel is very important at Gorham Savings Bank. It's also an area where many of you here today excel. As the owners and managers of businesses throughout the Lakes region, it's your energy and your drive and your efforts that are the drivers of the local economy, and Gorham Savings Bank feels that should be rewarded. With that objective in mind, we recently created a new program called Launchpad. That's an annual competition that's designed to recognize a company with a viable business idea that has the opportunity to impact the Maine economy and also reward them with the capital to put that plan into action. Last April, we announced Pica Energy from Gorham as the inaugural winner of that competition and awarded them with a $30,000 grand prize to kickstart the process of turning their entrepreneurial vision into a reality. This year's competition will begin soon, and it's so easy to enter. So if you have an innovative idea that has the opportunity to create jobs, grow your business, or have an impact on the community, we want to help make that happen. I would love this year's winner to come from the Lakes region, and there's so many excellent businesses in our area, there's no reason that shouldn't happen. So please stop by Gorham Savings Bank's booth today, and we'd be happy to share more details. In closing, I would also like to show our gratitude for our generous host for today, St. Joseph's College. In the 4 years that I've been involved in the Chamber of Commerce, St. Joseph's has been one of the most significant contributors to our mission, which is to be a resource for businesses. Workforce development is a significant part of that work, and they've been a great partner. We're so lucky to be able to host today's event in this beautiful setting with these great facilities. So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Lynn Robinson, who is the Executive Director of Business Development, Continuing Education and Training at St. Joseph's College, who will now share a few words. Thank you and enjoy your day.
Good morning. My job today is to welcome you on behalf of our President, Jim DeLucos, who had to be out of town. Not long ago at Jim's inauguration, he chose the word connections as his theme for his presidency. As I was thinking about that and all the many different ways that you can take the word connections, today it means connecting with the business community. St. Joseph's committed to doing that. With this beautiful residential campus and our online college, we're positioned to help the workforce of today and tomorrow, regardless if it's locally, globally, no matter if it's location. So we're excited to do that. Today, we hope to connect with you as you spend your day on our beautiful campus, and we welcome you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. If I haven't met you yet, I'm Amy Senator. I'm the Executive Director of the Sebago Lakes Region Chamber, and I couldn't be more excited to be standing in front of you all today at our first ever Sebago Summit. You have a great day in store for you, and I am absolutely honored to be here to welcome your first morning keynote. Bill Diamond is a longtime Wyndham resident, business owner, and distinguished legislative leader. He is here today as our inaugural keynote speaker for our summit. Bill has founded and co-founded 6 small and successful businesses in Wyndham over the past 30 years. He has a master's degree in administration. He served 6 years in the Maine House of Representatives, 12 years in the Maine Senate, and 8 years as Maine Secretary of State. He has been a teacher, a principal, and superintendent of schools for a total of 20 years. He's an author, an original organizer of the Wyndham Neighbors Helping Neighbors Assistance Program, and a newspaper columnist. This morning, he's here to share his perspective on our region's challenges, our successes, and how today's business leader can truly leverage the strength of our community. Please, everyone, let's join me and welcome Bill Diamond.
Thank you very much, Amy. What a great name, Amy Senator. So cool, I like that. Thank you for that introduction. I really appreciate it. It is a privilege and an honor to be here for this first inaugural. And I'm excited about this. And I'll tell you, because I'm always asked to speak about things like government and politics and Secretary of State stuff and Senator stuff and all that. But one of my biggest loves is business. And I've been involved in businesses now, as Amy said, for about 30 years. Before I begin, though, I need to introduce a couple of folks. State Representative Jane Pringle, who just walked in. Good morning, Jane. Thanks for being here. And State Representative Tom Tyler, who's right here. Welcome. And former State Representative Mark Bryant is here. So nice to have you all with us. But anyway, I'm involved with usually speaking on political things and government things, and even my book, which you just heard mentioned, The Evil and the Innocent, which can be purchased at any bookstore, Amazon.com, that sort of thing. But this today is about business, and that's what I'm was really excited about being asked. Politics has a way of keeping your head not too big. When I had left the Secretary of State's office, I'd been out about 6 months. And I was at Shaw's Supermarket, and this little boy with his mother was walking in the aisle, and he kept looking at me kind of off and on a little bit, curious. And then he looked up at me, and finally he had the courage, and he says, "Didn't you used to be somebody?" And I said, "Well, you know, maybe I was some days in the past, a little bit." But because of the media coverage of my political life, the business side has been pretty much forgotten about. But there's a lot to talk about. My personal background, which I very rarely talk about in a public forum, mostly because doesn't pertain to much. Today it does. And it does apply to some of the things I'm going to say. So I'm going to share some things which are pretty much of as I said, a personal background part, but there is a reason for that, and I hope you'll see it as we go on here in the next few minutes. I'm 68 years old and feel like I'm just starting. I run 3 miles a day and 5 days a week and all year round. I do 70 push-ups after every run. And I tell you that because that's the kind of self-discipline that I had to adopt, which I didn't have in my younger years, which has really made a difference in the business world in particular. I'm married to my wife, Jane, who's here this morning. We have 2 adult children. One's a doctor, and the other was working at IDEX until she met this NHL hockey player, and now she's in Nashville and has four kids, and that's working out very well. But the point I want to share with you this morning is that I'm really the quintessential overachiever. I did not come from a Kennedy-like or a Bush-like political wealthy family where the plans for especially the younger males were all laid out and people were expecting you to do certain things. In fact, I came from just the opposite. I grew up in a very poor family in a very poverty area in central Maine in a small town known as West Gardner. I grew up on a 2-horse, 4-cow family in a dirt farm. And my grandfather used to say, 2-horse, 4-cow, because that was the minimum you needed to survive, even as a poor farmer. My father left before I was born, and so, but there was no child support, nor was there any expected. Everybody took care of their own. And every season was a challenge. In the wintertime, of course, was the worst, but there was no running water, and there was no indoor toilets, and none of those kind of luxuries. But that all had and eventually had a meaning and a purpose, I found out. To us, the rich people in town were what I later learned were really lower middle class, but because they had things like indoor toilets and running water, we always looked up to them as being the rich people. Most people worked in the woods in the fall and the winter and spring until mud season, and then in the hayfield in the summer. And you raised your own food, pigs, chickens, whatever it may be. We didn't count ourselves as, we didn't never use the word poor. We kind of saw ourselves as just normal. Everybody smoked for the most part, except my mother and grandfather. Drinking was pretty much by the menfolk on weekends. And the family pedigree was, did you have a painted house? That is, was your house painted or was it just the old gray clapboards? We had the old gray clapboards. And the other measure of pedigree was, did you have a vehicle with a legal inspection sticker? College was not thought of as a goal. High school pretty much was. A lot of the guys especially quit school before they would graduate to get a job. I lived with my sister and my older sister, my mother, and my grandfather. My sister went to college later on after her husband died. She's now a professor at Radford University in Virginia. And again, all of this pertains because that provided the motivation for some security, which I always felt that I needed to get. There was this generational poverty and was trying to find a way to get out of that. Didn't know where it was or how I would get out, but I was hoping that I could. One of the problems that I faced, especially in high school, was the self-confidence issue. And that was really interesting because I'm a redhead, light skin, and so I blush easily. And I would blush all the time in school, in high school. A teacher would call on me, I'd turn red, and I would turn redder because I was embarrassed because I was blushing. And it became one of those self-confidence sorts of things, and with a name like Diamond and having a million freckles and also being one of the very, very few people who lived in a divorced family, that kind of said to me that, you know, there's some things out there that's made you very different. And that whole piece, though, I'm really thankful for today because it did really make a difference, searching for that security. I became a teacher and really loved that part of everything, working with the kids. I became a principal at age 24 so that I could gain some more security, I thought. And when I ran for the legislature in '76, that's when things began to hit home. That's when I realized that public policy makers, because I was a principal and a teacher, and like some of you, policies handed down to us. And I decided I think I should be there where the policy is made to make it a little more adaptable to what I thought was appropriate at least. But learning that political system, and this is one of the points I want to leave with you today, was like magic. It was like winning the lottery. It was like I had this magic key all of a sudden because I could go in and maneuver the bureaucracy to help someone back home, but also I learned how that whole bureaucracy could be moved. And that inner knowledge then became a driving point for me to get involved in business. So I founded and co-founded 6 small businesses in this area, starting in 1980. 5 of those businesses were successful. One of them wasn't. But every one was made on a handshake. And what we would do, our model would be, is go in and find a need in the community, search it carefully, start a business to meet that need, get it up and running, and then sell it. That's what I do. But don't get me wrong, the political world is really one that plays a key role in all of this. The key point, whether you like it or not, and I need to share this with you and kind of lay it on you, business people are politicians. I know that really makes your day kind of go off sideways, but you really are. Business people are politicians and business owners and managers, and you need to understand that. And think of the comparisons. Politicians look to people for votes. We as business people look to people for customers. We advertise and make claims about our product. We have networking. The thing is, politicians have great networking, and we need to do better at that as a business community. I've been in both. I've been in politics and business, and I can say that if we embrace the idea that we can do things with the political world, we will succeed much quicker. You know, I'm always interested when business people, and especially elected officials, say, well, I'm not a politician. Governor LePage is noted for that, saying he's not a politician. Let me say this. As an elected official, I've had the privilege of working with 6 governors in the last 36 years. 6. 2 independents, 2 Democrats, and 2 Republicans. And I can tell you that Governor LePage, and this is a compliment, is probably the best, if not the best, right near the top of being a politician of anyone that's held that office since 1976. And we need to understand how that all works. And we need to understand why that's important and not run away from that idea. In the Lakes region, in the Chamber of Commerce, we need to start leveraging our strengths because we all have a lot of assets. And we need to start leveraging those so we can be strong. The better we are at collaborating our skills and networking and promoting each other, you know, being good politicians, the better we're going to be. And we really shouldn't wait and hand that off to the larger chambers like the Greater Portland Chamber of Commerce. We can do that right here. Even with the distractions as recession and shutdowns and the global unrest, and this is still probably the most exciting place to do business in the state of Maine. And if we can recognize what's right in front of us and take advantage of this, then we too will be strong, stronger than maybe, as I say, we should be a role model for the state of Maine. Businesses will have the responsibility to succeed, and they need that responsibility to recognize that. Let me ask people in here, how many of you have contributed to a local charity? Yeah. Charities depend on you, and that's one of the things we have to understand as a business community. There were, I think, yeah, there was about, we raised money for the Wyndham Neighbors Helping Neighbors, and in fact, what we found out there is that without the business support, we would not have had anywhere near the kind of support that we needed to make that successful. So, all in all, I would say to you, where are we going to go from here? What are we going to do? What are some ideas that we can do as a chamber to make us successful? What are we going to do as a chamber to make us more stronger, more united, working with each other? What can we do today and from this point on that makes this chamber the most exciting chamber in the state? And if we can do that, if we can push that idea, then we will have something that other chambers don't have. And if we can leave here with that idea, that in fact, we really know that we have something going special. And that specialness is the location where we are. We're a 4-season area. The businesses that I started depended on our location. The business that I started in 1980 was a security guard business, Suburban Security, Inc. That was a business that came out of an idea. We looked around. There was nothing happening in this area in terms of providing security guards for traffic control or whatever it might have been. And we looked around. We started the business, a friend of mine and I. And what happened was, 7 years later, we started with 2 part-time employees. 7 years later, we sold the business for $70,000. And that's because we were in an area that we had the population. We also were in an area that had the need. That is the key to this whole, to all of us, because again, I think we're sitting in probably the best geographical area in the state. The second business that I started was in the mid-'80s, Bill Diamond Associates, and that was more of a governmental liaison, and I used that during the non-office holding years. But that too depended on location. And again, our location is prime. We started the newspaper, Suburban News, in 1992, and we were in direct competition with an existing newspaper, but we had excellent people, and part of the role model that we tried to adapt is hire people who are really good people, who are experts and know more about the business than we do. So we started this newspaper, competed with the local one, which is called the Courier, but we did something the Courier didn't. We partnered with each other. We didn't go off on our own. We partnered with each other. And that's, again, one of our strengths. And because we were a four-season geographical area, we were able to actually succeed rather quickly, and our competition left the scene in just a few months. In 1999, we formed a business called Main Street Mortgage. And Main Street Mortgage, I had no idea what mortgage companies were. Neither did my partner, Ray Rue. We just had a mortgage. That's all we knew about it. But we looked around and we could see that there were these mortgage companies starting up. They were starting up, and the people who were doing them, I knew some. And I said, wow, if they can do a mortgage, geez, I think maybe we can. But this was quite a story because we started the mortgage company in 1999, and it was costing us a lot of money. We hired a very, very expensive person. We named her the vice president. She knew what she was doing. She deserved the pay. But we were running out of money after several months. We were bleeding profusely, and we decided we had to close this down or at least scale it back. Well, what happened was we were walking down the hall one day, going to her office and going to say to her, we have to scale this back. We walked in the door and she said, we got our first mortgage. And that was a turnaround for us because that business, as you probably know, the mortgage business just took off in the next few years, and we were doing 30 and 40 mortgages a month. Why? Because we were in an area where we had 4 seasons. We had a 4-seasonal business. We were in an area that was geographically located so there were people, towns all around us. At one point, we were doing over 60 mortgages a month for a little business like ours, and that was just absolutely phenomenal. But again, we knew that if we could partner with each other, partner with other businesses, we expanded to Westbrook, we expanded to Waterville, we expanded to Freeport, and none of those places were nearly as successful as was the business in Wyndham. Again, I attribute that to where we were. And keeping our 5-year rule, we grabbed our success in 2004, sold the business while it was still booming, and left. In 2007, we started the business, and with Patriot Mortgage, thinking that lightning might strike twice, but it didn't because the recession was right on our heels. And this was a big recession, as we all know. We had a great business partner in Gorham Savings Bank, Dan Hancock and others, and everybody worked well together, but it just didn't, it was just a so bad time, so we cut our losses and got out of that one real quick. And then a very exciting business we started in January of 2012. And this one is All Med Staffing of New England, and we provide per diem nurses, CNAs, to nursing homes, hospitals, and home care. And in fact, we hired another expert, and she's here today, actually. This expert had been in the business for a while, and her name is Pam Charles, and she's sitting right in the middle of the room here. And she has made this business go very, very well, along with her person that works for her is Crystal Drummond. But that business, we have over 160 nurses and CNAs on staff in a year and a half. And we use about 100 of those every week. So, again, because of where we're located, and because of the potential, and because of what's happening with that, we teamed up with Peter Godso at Norway Savings on this one, and it's worked out extremely well. You know, the studies show that 44% of new businesses will go under after 4 years. We've kind of turned that one upside down, and again, I'm not sure we could have done that anywhere else in the state of Maine, but right here. So I guess I really want to say to you, we've got a great resource here looking at us. We've got Amy Senator and the Chamber of Commerce. We've got the location. We've got the skill set. We've got everything going for us. And I would like to see us hopefully become not just a satellite to the Greater Portland Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to see us be the center of business out in this area and make it work and make us strong. And we have to remember again that politics is not bad. And I know it's a terrible time to say that, looking at Congress and the dysfunction that's happening down there. But fact is, politics in general is something we need and we need to embrace. And we need to remember that we in business we are politicians in different titles. That's basically all it is. And if we embrace that and learn from it, we'll do much better. In 1973, I was awarded a Ford Foundation Fellowship, and they allowed me to go anywhere that I wanted to go, study whatever I wanted, and they would pay my salary expenses, travel expenses, and living expenses. So that's what I did. And my area of study was politics and how it affects education. That was an eye-opener, because educators feel the same as business people about not wanting to be involved with politics. But I learned that they too, once they understand how important that is to be together, work together, then they're going to come out much stronger, because policymakers hit educators directly. So remember, politicians and business people, if we can play together, friendly, play together, take advantage of each other's skills, we'll do a much better job. On that Ford Foundation Fellowship, I was studying at NYU and UCLA, and then went down to Mississippi to a town that was 100% segregated. But during the day, they all went to the same school. And what an eye-opener that was. Why? Because they learned how to work together as a political group and as a professional educator group. That was just amazing. So there's demonstration after demonstration after demonstration that shows that if we do this thing right, we can really take off. We can really help each other out and help those people. The charities that I mentioned, Wyndham Neighbors Helping Neighbors, would not exist without the business community's support. So a lot of people come together if we do all this thing right. In conclusion, I'd like to say that I'm honored to be here, flattered to be invited to speak to you, prominent business people and community people, highly respected people. And sometimes I have to kind of pinch myself to say, you know, what is this red-headed kid from West Gardner doing here? I feel like sometimes I have to look around to just see if I can believe it or not. I don't blush as much as I used to, but I still have the same background, come from where I did. But that has all made a big difference to me. It's made a big difference in terms of how I understand and how I function. And I know that if we can really focus, on making business, remembering what we are and who we are, and the skills we have, if we can take that in one hand, understand politics, the political world, and know how that functions, and don't be afraid of it. Don't worry about it. Come together, adopt each other's same motivations, then we'll do much better. We'll do very well, in fact. And you couple all that with the leadership of Amy and the Chamber, and we'll take that attitude, bring it together, and we can have something here that will be looked at around the state as a role model for what indeed we have done, what we can do. When it comes down to it all, for me, I'm just feel lucky that I was able to be a teacher, especially, that I was able to be a state senator and state representative and secretary of state, all of that. But really, what has been one of my biggest thrills has been being in the business community and learning from that business community what you can do to help each other, but also those charities and others that depend on us. So if I've done anything, I've reached the level of being able to be invited to come and talk to you today, and that to me is a big honor, so thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Bill. We have a few moments before 9, and I just wanted to open up the opportunity to ask Bill questions. As he outlined, he has many, many years of business experience. We have lots of people in this room right now that either own or operate small businesses. Are there any questions that would like to be presented this morning? We'd love to be able to have a discussion. Don.
Question from Don Willard, the town manager of Raymond. Ask the question again, Don.
I don't want to be too provocative, but I'm wondering what elements of Governor LePage's performance as governor would characterize him as a good or great politician.
He sets the agenda and everybody else runs to catch up. Pretty much it. Whether you agree with the agenda or not, he sets the agenda. And he sets it based on what he wants to accomplish, what he says, what he feels is the most important. And how he does it, we all may, somebody may disagree with him, may not, but if you'll notice, people are always chasing his agenda. Yes, Tom?
I just think of being a good politician as someone who can build consensus, foster collaboration, and make things happen that way. I was just curious about it.
No, that's the other half of it for sure. And but in terms of, I was thinking at the time when I said that, basically how he can manipulate or set the game change. It's pretty much what it is.
Hi, Bill. Kelly Mang, Time for Printing,
Hi,
and
Kelly.
the Wyndham Eagle. I've been in business 7 years. I'm a small business owner. We have 4 local businesses now. What do you feel is the single most important thing to a small business owner, not only in the Sebago Lakes region area, but also in the main region to grow?
Good question. Recognizing that you're not alone, that we're not alone, and that we have a lot of businesses around us, a lot of people with common goals, and take advantage of that. I didn't do that very well in some of the businesses, but I did it well enough to succeed. We did it very well in the newspaper business. We kept that paper for 11 years, which is well beyond my 5-year rule. But we had to keep it because if we sold it any earlier than that, we'd have taken a big loss. So I think taking advantage of those around us, taking advantage of the skills of businesses that we know and work with maybe every day, and network. And that's what makes a small business work. It's the networking, and don't try to do it alone. And also hiring people smarter than we are as owners. That's key.
Thank you, Kelly. Any other questions? Oh, you have another one?
Hi, Bill. Explain your 5-year rule to me because, again, been in business 7 years, and people tell me all the time, oh, you're at the top, sell, 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 find somebody to buy it. And we get offers on our businesses all the time, and I have 4 young kids. People think I'm crazy for not selling, when in fact I'm actually, right today, probably buying another business. So explain to me your 5-year rule and what the sense is behind that, because that's something that I challenge and I face myself with every single day.
The 5-year rule makes you think about making this business successful. It's kind of a timeline you have in your head. You say, I've got to get this going. It's been a year and a half. It's been 2 years. All Med Staffing of New England, we're a little over a year and a half years old, but we're also doing very well, very successful. The time clock in your head makes you push. If you want to sell, if you start the business with the intent of selling it, that's the mindset. That's different from someone who may start a business and say, look, I want to keep this business a long time. I want to give it to my family and hand it on down. It's a different mindset. Again, the 5-year rule makes you work harder, makes you say, look, I'm running out of time. It's been 3 years. I've only got 2 years left. And sometimes that's a good push. And if you're going to sell it, if you don't sell it after 5 years, then you're almost, in my opinion, kind of locked in for a little bit more because you've accepted the fact you're going to be with this business for a while. We adopt businesses. We try not to make them family in terms of how we see the business as owners. We try to make our employees family, but not the business itself. We don't want to be married to it so much that we start managing with our hearts instead of our heads.
Bill, Dick Barter from Great Town Council. I too have owned and operated several businesses in the area. Talk to us a little bit about regulations. Small businesses in the state of Maine, and I've had 5 of them, constantly have to compete against larger companies that do not have the same imposed regulations on their internal functions. And to me, it becomes an exhausting job to be a small business owner, and it becomes non-profitable unless you can find that niche and go with it.
Indeed, Dick, that's a good question because I think what we have to remember is that that's the political world. Those regulators are pretty much bureaucrats who work for politicians, and that's not a derogatory statement from me. That's just the way it is. So if we learn that system, and it's not that complicated. Tommy Tyler does it. I'm just kidding, Tommy. No, I figured out how to do it. The point is that we can actually, if we do this right, those regulations we worry about, those things that they're real, they kind of hit us right between the eyes more often than they don't. If we can have some impact on those, some input with those, while they're being formulated, if we know who to go to, where to go, who to go to, but more importantly, when to go, then we can regulate that impact. So that's what I mean. One of the things I mean when I say politics is really something we can't ignore. And we've got to understand it so that we can survive as small businesses. Because somebody in Augusta is doing something that's going to hurt small business, they probably don't even know about it because they've never run a small business. So it's important for us to have that communication. And honestly, it's who to go to. Some of the folks that can make a big difference in those regulations, we'd never heard their names before. They're there and they're in a cubicle down in the corner, but they have a position and they have the influence on that particular area to make a difference, and that can help us or that can hurt us. So we need to be more aware of that. We need to get involved in that game, and sometimes throw some elbows. I mean, I don't see it as bullying bureaucrats. I see it as explaining our position, working hard with them, and try to bring them on board to why we do what we do.
Hello, Gren Blackwell from Gorham Savings Bank. You talked a lot about business development here, which is obviously the key. But what advice do you have for the chamber itself? If there was a single program that you suggest, given your perspective from both the political and business side, what things could we do here to speed this up for our area?
You mean to make us stronger and
to make the chamber have more value to the businesses?
Perfect. I think I would suggest that we sit down this afternoon, tomorrow morning, whatever it may be, and work out a game plan of how we're going to create this new, whether it's going to be called a standing committee or whatever it may be, but the purpose of this group would be to make this chamber much more involved. I don't mean supporting political candidates. I mean in the system. There's a difference. There's a difference between sending money to your favorite candidate and having a chamber that has a group together that focuses on how we can learn and be part of, be more active, like the Greater Portland Chamber. I mean, they do this all the time. It's one of the biggest things they do. They have a lobbyist in Augusta every day. We don't need to do that, but we need to understand that if we focus on this, making ourselves, first off, sharing our skills, collaborating our skills together, but also partnering with the community, with the political side of this, that is understanding who these people are, bringing them in, talk to them, tell them what we're doing, make them part of the process, and also stand on guard as to what they all do. If we make an effort at it, if we make it a priority, in fact, we make it our top priority with Amy's leadership, this can happen. I mean, there's no reason why it can't. There's no reason why we can't have a chamber out here taking in all these towns. There's no reason why we can't make this the most exciting chamber around. And will be exciting because we're involved in a lot of different things. Especially we're involved in the political side of it from the point that we're understanding who's doing something and how they're doing it and how we can impact that. Most chambers, just as I say, stay away from this. Most businesses, as individual businesses, don't want to go near that because it's too scary. I want to stay below the radar. And I'm suggesting we get into the radar in a positive way. We get up into it and become involved, mix it up, share, bring in people, share with them, go to Augusta, share with them, do all the things. We become known as that most active chamber in the state. And there's no reason why we can't. And a little bit of knowledge, it only takes a little for us to really be much more stronger, greater than we are now in terms of strength.
And Bill, the other thing that I would say is all of you are here today, and that's really the first step. In order to become a more engaged chamber, people have to participate and become engaged and be a part of the chamber. And so you're all here today, and that's very encouraging. That's where the process starts, is actually, stepping up and getting engaged in the process.
And this is a great first step. I think, though, if we let this step just then sit on the shelf or just kind of float back to what everyday normal, what's been our normal in the past, then we're losing out on a great opportunity. I can't say it enough how exciting it is to do business in this area. It really is. I don't just say that. This is an area that is unique. It's in southern Maine. It has great water, clean air. It's a four-season area, and most of our businesses depend on that. And so we just don't want to let this go. I mean, I think I'm just so excited about the potential here, what we can do if we make an effort to do it. And everybody has to play a part in it.
Any other questions this morning?
Can you hear me, Bill?
I can.
Hi, Bill. I've been in business here for going on 30 some odd years now.
Yes.
Bring my daughter. It's a great place. You got to be positive and you'll be successful. And you got to get together and support each other. That's the most important thing that I find being here. And I want to tell you, the people in this Lakes region are very supportive. They're supportive of everybody, and they're all excited. So I think that I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited that the Chamber's done such a great program today.
Thank you for that, and you run a great jewelry store too. I have to tell you. Let me just add on to that, though. I mean, absolutely right. It's exciting. We all work together. What I'm talking about is the next level, and that next level can be even more exciting if we understand that what we're doing here is something that maybe we're breaking new ground. And we can really, if we do this right, we can, just the fact that we're more involved will make us more exciting. We'll get more of us involved. There are a lot of businesses out there who are not involved with the Chamber. You know, they're going to see things are happening. Things are moving. The train is leaving. And they may want to jump on. And I think that's the kind of message we can send. Yes, Tom.
Tom Bartel, Town of Wyndham. There's a saying I've been repeating, and that is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I think that applies to many different aspects, including particularly the business world. Businessmen and women are not inclined to put themselves in front of politicians, if you would, and ask for things that they need, and tell folks what the impacts are going to be. We have a difficult time getting business folks to the town council level to speak their mind, and it's certainly more so at the legislative level. So I really do think that I very much appreciate what you're saying. You are saying the exact same thing. We need to be involved. We need to be involved in more than just our business to be successful in the business. And I think that's, coming from the political side or from the government side, we need that input from the government side. We cannot get this right without the input from the business owners and managers. And I really appreciate your thoughts on that.
Well said, Tom. And I can say to you that most chambers will invite their legislative delegation to come to their breakfast or whatever, and they'll talk questions and share things. And that's okay, but what I'm talking about, Tom, is what you're talking about. I'm talking about that in this group, in this chamber, we know there's some people here that feel very comfortable taking a trip to Augusta to go to a committee meeting, or taking a trip wherever it may be to the level, whatever it may be, to not only say, here's who we are, we're the Lakes Region Chamber of Commerce, and there are some of our concerns, and get that communication going back and forth, and develop a relationship with people. Relationship with people who are making impacts in the political world and bureaucratic world. So you're right on, Tom, and I'm just saying let's do more than what we've done in the past, because that's not going to get us where we want to be or where we could be. I'm telling you, I've seen it happen in other things in the political world, where you have a little small county in the state of Maine. All of a sudden they get involved, they get charged up, and they have a purpose. And with that purpose, they become known by everybody, and then people want to join and be part of it. It's so contagious. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Bill. Tom Nash with the Wyndham Raymond Adult Ed Program.
Good morning, Tom.
Could you please speak to your thoughts on the connection between business, education, but also then the politics side and maybe the advocacy piece that maybe we can work on and help?
About the what piece? I missed that.
Advocacy?
Advocacy, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, in your business, especially with the education side of things, we've got a community out here that still needs help with that that education. The advocacy part of everything we do as a business, we can be the leaders in this whole thing. We know natural advocates. We know we can name them. But what I'm talking about, and I think what you're referring to, Tom, is the advocacy as a chamber. And we can be seen as more than just, we can just be seen more than just a business and more than just a regular chamber if we take some of the skills we all have, focus them out in different areas, come back and share those, really make it something that we as a chamber take as a high priority. Again, we're working together. We're going out and not staying in our own little business safe world. We're reaching out to some of those scary political people. We're reaching out to help other groups that need our help, like Neighbors Helping Neighbors, whatever it may be. And if we can be seen as more than just a business group, people who are promoting our own business, but a part of the community, people who care, and you all do. Believe me, we raised $30,000 in Neighbors Helping Neighbors this year, and most of that came from business people. And that's what we need to be made aware of, that we can do this kind of thing. So advocacy, that's a great tag to have with us. Being involved in the political world where most chambers don't, and certainly working together as businesses where most people do, but we can do much more than that.
Okay, we'll have a couple more questions here and then we'll wrap up.
I promise I won't ask anymore. Hey, Bill. So I started, obviously, a newspaper about 20 years after you did. People thought I was absolutely insane in March when they said, oh, why in the world would she be doing this? And one of the big reasons we started the Wyndham Eagle was because, obviously, it's the best newspaper around if you've read it, but it's also a positive and solutions-based newspaper. We received our first complaint, actually, the other day. Somebody called us and said, they talked to everyone in my office until they finally either got to myself or Michelle, and her biggest complaint was, Wyndham is just not this positive. You can't have this much good news. You have to, report on the things going on, and you have to focus on the bad stuff and why we all are like the way we are. And, for those of you who know me, I'm an incredibly positive person. I turn everything positive. And how do you, not only in the newspaper world, but in the business world, how do you fight that? How do you, rebuttal against the people who you just can't get to turn around? You just, it's one of those glass half empty, glass half full type of things. You just can never convince them or show them the other side, of the door. I run into this often. So.
Yeah, I hear you on that, and I would say to you that of all the 6 businesses that I've owned, the newspaper business was the toughest. Toughest because you're seen not as a business. You're seen, if you own a newspaper, you're seen as a community service. Making a profit, that's not our problem. Our problem as a community is you make sure you do what you're supposed to do. We appreciate that. In terms of positive versus negative, you have to set the tone as what you think you're in the business for, especially in newspaper business. And if you've got in your own mind where you're going to go, you just go forward. And you do not be deterred by those who would like to change you. Because remember, people in the community think that they own that newspaper. And in many ways, you want them to think that. But they really don't, because the bills come to you. And you're responsible for getting that paper out every week. And again, we kept it 11 years, not so much because we loved it, but because we really couldn't get out. And we had to get out when we made a profit, and the opening and current publishing came by, and that's how we made it. That's as candid as I can get. So don't deter from your game plan, especially in newspaper business, because if you do, you're going to be all over the place, and you're going to find you have another critic that's going to come at you from some other angle. So good for you. Stay in it. Stay in it for at least 5 years, and I think you'll do well.
That is going to conclude our morning keynote. I want to thank all of you for participating. Another round of applause for Bill Diamond. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And I just have a couple of quick announcements.